You did it. We are at week 8, and it is the final week of the red chakra. The first chakra is complete after today. And actually, we have the week to meditate on it, but this is going to be your completion conversation. And how appropriate that it is the acceptance card, which is the Fable of Cherry Heart. And as we talk about Cherry Heart, I also want to give you the idea that if you really think about it, this is the 7th card in the red chakra. So we have come to the final card. Now, I know I've said that before, but I'm saying it in a different way. The final card is that 7th chakra, which is this energy right here, right? So this becomes the chakra of the mind. And the mind is the universal consciousness. So I'm going to invite you to begin this conversation with me. Let's begin with the end in mind. So I'm going to invite you, because I'm going to use the meditation from here. We're going to do the meditation of Cherry Heart. We're going to start with that today. And I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and, if you want, it says close your eyes, but I always feel with meditation, you can meditate with your eyes open. You can meditate with your eyes in soft focus. There's so many ways to do it, and I think do it your way. So close your eyes and concentrate on the part of you that you don't feel is complete. Just take a moment and breathe and just drop your shoulders and let go of everything you don't need right now. With your mind's eye, imagine Cherry Heart. She's glad you came to see her, and she wishes to give you a slice of pie. Notice the slice of pie as it becomes what you feel has been missing from your life. Allow this imagery to become the gift that you have always desired. Just hold that for a moment. Just go into that. Breathe. Allow your feelings to create a new awareness for you. When you are ready, go ahead and write down that awareness. Put me into a state. So as we look at a completion, and I want to really just say good for you, we've completed it. And we have to look at it as a completion. When we look at the completion of our foundation, this is really the foundation you've created. It is the, if you will, it is the culmination of your root chakra. It is the culmination of the aspects, well, darkness, dawn, and light for these. And let's take a look at the key, the week's focus, which is when I accept myself, I find love. And part of that is when we go into that meditation, we found love. So before I get into Tori's tip and all that, I want to make it clear that the crux of the fable, I'll just give you the teeny crux, which is this. Number one, it's also a great spirit card. A great spirit card, like Pink from Pinkton, becomes very important because these are cards of destiny. Much like in the tarot, where you have the major and minor arcana, in the chakra wisdom cards, the great servant cards, the great spirit cards, there are 17 of them in the deck. They are cards of destiny. They are very well defined, and the description of what that means is in the advanced book. And I'm only telling you because I'm going to share a little bit about the Great Spirit here. Now, I want to let you know that the Great Spirit in this fable is Great Goddess. Now, we've got the Great Goddess and we've got Mother Earth in other fables, but in here, the great goddess is kind of like a fairy godmother in this case, and she tells the story, which is very interesting because if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the only fable in which the one of the great spirits actually tells it. So that becomes, again, a little thing to notice. Now, in the fable, the crux is this, that Cherry she's a waitress. She cuts a fresh piece of pie, and she looks at it and she says to her colleague, I feel like I'm this pie, that there's a piece missing. And the coworker says, oh, Cherry, well, maybe you're just a heart-shaped pie. And that is a very powerful recognition of how many of us see our lives. Like there's that one thing that we had. If we had that one thing, and I can't tell you how many times I work with groups and I say, they'll say to me, and I'll say like, like, do you feel that there's one thing missing? And they're like, yes. And if I knew what it was, well, that's what this is about. Ultimately, it's about recognizing that maybe you are a heart-shaped pie. And so accepting that if you think there's a piece missing, maybe there's a piece missing. Who cares? You're fine. And it brings up another story that I won't get into, but it reminds me of a story I had with somebody on the radio, a conversation about agoraphobia. So we all have our issues. Anyway, the thing that I constantly reiterate when I'm working with one-on-one like we are right now is it's the meaning you make of something that determines the life you will have. Now, as I say that, it's also going to determine whether you will be the supportive advocate for your client, or you're going to be someone that wants somebody hooked and coming back again and again and again. The biggest problem with giving advice in a reading is you become part of the problem, because then you have to keep giving advice and they're addicted to the advice. Your client is not getting the spiritual solution. Now, when I say that to you, and we look at the acceptance card, obviously on the card itself and the image itself, we see Cherry cutting the pie. And we also see what I think is kind of not a very good picture of the great goddess behind her, but kind of looks a little creepy. But she is coming up from, if you remember, she's coming from the root. She's not in a physical form in existence. She's actually coming from the root and coming through Cherry. So she's actually in that surrounding. She's all around her without Cherry seeing her. Now, I talk about notice how Cherry interprets the missing piece of pie. And notice now, again, look at the characters in the fable. So I'm going to ask you on this week to go ahead and comment below, and I'll comment back. Notice the different characters in here. Which ones do you see, and what do you think they mean? So we've got the other waitress. Who is she? And excuse me, I just had to sneeze. And we've got the other waitress, and we've got Cherry, we've got the great goddess, we've got the boyfriend. There are a couple characters in there that may play into what's going on with Cherry. So let's take a look at that for a second. Now, if you remember, in the prior, notice how I'm tying the cards together. In the prior card of discovery, Pink discovered he'd outgrown the circumstance of that relationship. In this fable, Cherry ultimately recognizes she too has outgrown a lot of her old ideas, but it's not just in this one area, because when we leave Pink, it was his recognition of that one area. This now gives us a more advanced concept of a universal concept where Cherry has, by the end of the fable, not only outgrown the boyfriend, but outgrown other beliefs about herself, if you will, and changed the meaning of things to give herself a more expansive experience of her life. Now remember that the prior card had that sixth chakra idea, which is family of origin, multi-generational healing, third eye, right? But when we look at the seventh chakra, universal consciousness, we know the universe is neutral, right? We know there's a neutrality there. This is why they're the neutral cards in a funny way. That's why I called them that. But when the universe is neutral, the universe, when you connect to it, you can grow exponentially, not only in the area of the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you can also grow in every area of your life. So really, the fable of acceptance is a lot, excuse me, it's a lot deeper than just the idea of acceptance. It goes into that final area of our intuitive wisdom from the universe. And again, notice that both the sixth and the seventh cards here are Great Spirit cards. They become important. I think, let me just, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and look it up because they become important if I can find it. So forgive me, give me a moment. But when I look at the Great Spirit cards in here, let's see. And there's a lot of stuff in here. We're looking at, I'm sorry, my brain. Okay, hold on. I'm so close to it. Doop, here it is, the Great Spirits. Acceptance. Okay. Okay, so this, I'm just reading from this book, which is the Great Spirits, and it gives you more insight. And it says, in this fable, the great goddess appears and recites the story of Cherry Heart. I knew it was written somewhere. The angel in the story is the co-worker who shares magic without knowing it. Sometimes angels can be other people who say or do something that inspire us. When the great goddess appears, she reminds us of the magical possibilities always available to us, and that our dreams are possible even if we may not now see a way to fulfill them. And this is, I'm getting truth bumps as I say this to you. This is where you start to go deeper into the cards because, sorry, I'm trying to stand. Okay. This is where we get to go deeper into the cards because we get to see that that is a Great Spirit card. So she's appearing with a deeper message and a bigger destiny idea for you, which is that in this moment, this is the moment that you will inspire yourself into greater heights than you ever thought possible. One of the most important things that I'm really uncovering at this time, the more I work with these cards, is that knowing how to do something must be invisible in the early stages of a revelation that we can do something. What did she just say? That's a great thing. You can replay it. It's very important that you get, and I think, you know, and I'm saying this a lot, but when we look at the idea of you know, it's so funny how spirit works because it's kind of like, no, you don't need to repeat that. I'm like, okay. Well, I'll just move on then, spirit. I'm all good here and we're just gonna, okay. So a couple things here. When we look at the fable, we know that that Cherry and her co-worker and the great goddess, but we don't mention in that the boyfriend. He's really not in it. He's just mentioned, but it is something that can become an ancillary character if you're doing a reading and you can't figure out that maybe there's something on the sidelines that isn't quite coming into the picture. That can be indicated here as well, especially if you've got a smaller character that's just mentioned but not in dialogue. Meaning not there in the interaction. Now, here's the thing that happens. The piece you are missing is actually the piece that you never needed because it's the piece that makes you unique. So when we look at the first impressions here, the idea that we're chasing after a piece of ourselves that we don't need to reclaim is a big part of it. Now, set your intention for the week. You know what that is, but let's take a look really quick. It says, complete the statement. The one thing I'm missing from my life is blank, and when I get it, I can blank. Now, some of these may seem repetitive to you, but they're actually building on each other. Something I'm missing is whatever, you know, and when I get it, I'll be this. Now, that again is that evolution of what am I missing? And remember I mentioned about the idea of the how. The how is always built into the unknown, and we can't know the how of it when we first make the change. And we say, I can't tell you how many people say to me, you know, I want this, but I don't know how to get there. And the thing is that we've heard the cliche, it's God's job, you know, knowing what, not the how. However, we're talking a slightly different thing, and I want you to step into a metaphysical conversation here for a moment. There's a slight difference between knowing what you want and not knowing the how, and clearing the way to what you want, and being in the I don't know, and allowing the how to appear. Got it? Okay. So as we move on, this becomes the platform on which you are going to stand. So I'm going to ask you another question, which becomes, what is it that you need to accept? What is it that you need to make okay in your life so that you can stand on that platform and step into a mature emotional outlook on life, which is going to be a big part of the next 7 weeks when we step into the orange cards. So as we look at this, again, I have to encourage you, and I will, to do the different days. I'm not going to go over every one. I'd rather give you behind the scenes information. Plus I want to show you a quick little reading. And the thing, let's see, the solo exercise. Oh, this was so much fun when we created it in our mastermind group. Give me a minute, I'm sorry. In our original mastermind group, because we were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I said, well, why don't we create an acceptance box? Like what I need to, you know, what would be, I'm going to accept something. And so what is it I'm going to accept? And so we put crazy stuff in that box. One person put, they won an Oscar, Academy Award. Somebody else said, I'm going to accept that, job on the lot. I'm going to, you know, this is in Hollywood at the time. Somebody else said, I'm going to accept the contract for the 3-book deal that will be best-selling. And so it goes on and on. Those were the things they were going to accept. And of course, all those things happened in the group. But the bigger thing is, what is it? If you can make it smaller for yourself, when I say smaller, just make it realistic for you. Creating an acceptance box is really great. Like, you know what? Mine has, one of them I pulled out because I was like, you know what? I am not having a great day. And I pulled one out and it said, I'm going to accept that I'm going to eat massive amounts of sugar today. And I went, oh. And once I had permission, I could have like a little chocolate crepe and I felt great. And I was like, wow, I want a candy bar, you know? And it's like, and sometimes it's about accepting things that we go, no, I can't do that. So what can you accept about yourself? So that said, take your red cards, pull out the red cards. And I'm going to invite you to pull 3 cards. We're going to look at darkness, dawn, and light. We're going to look at those aspects for each of these cards. So I'm going to just show you how this works so you'll know. I pulled the first card. Darkness is the insecurity card. The second card is perfection, dawn. And the third card is renewal, geranium. Okay. So because we're looking at the aspect, darkness, dawn, and light, in the positions. So we look at darkness for the insecurity card, the dawn for the perfection card, and the light for renewal. So when we look at insecurity, I can honestly say that this has been a big breakthrough for me last year. I had a huge book contract that I was really scared because I knew what I wanted to write, but everybody else was telling me that's not what they're gonna buy. And I went, oh my gosh. And so I was in so much like little demon red. I was like where I was at. And my wiser self in the darkness, I just went, I surrender this. And the higher self said, Dawn, it dawned on me that I wasn't going to get to do this perfectly. Like, I'm going to have to ask for help. I'm going to have to like find out what I'm missing. And I just put that out to the universe. And by the way, the bridge between the second and third aspect, right? So this is the dawn, and then we look at the light. I knew that something came to me and it said someone else knows how to do what I don't know how to do. And it was a particular style of editing and organizing that I needed to learn, that I didn't know. And I found these people on the internet, right? And I messaged them all, and only one got back to me, and she was the perfect person. She was so fantastic. And when we look at geranium, right, renewal, we know that I was, right, the roots of geranium being pulled out. She can be pulled out and thrown into anywhere else. I had 1 month to finish this book. That's how much panic I had during that time. She taught me how to replant what I was working on and do it my way, in my own words, by just supporting me and being the person that said, you can grow in this spot, you can do this. So that's the light. So now you get an idea. As I looked at the darkness of that, I looked at the dawn of this, and then I looked at the light. You get an idea how the aspects work. So if you looked at this and we just switched it around, now we can look at renewal, right, in the dawn. Then insecurity is the light. So we would look at it a slightly different way. I'm not going to go through it because we could be here all night. I could be showing you all these things. So, and a lot of this, reading techniques really are not part of this particular journey, but I think it's fun to kind of mix it up. So when we finish each section, you're going to notice, like at the end of orange, I will give you a little reading with orange. So I kind of switch it up for you. So that's a little technique to look at with the red cards, is to play with darkness, dawn, and light, and get an idea of how these aspects will shine and give you some information. And I think that concludes our red series. I'm so excited to start orange with you. We're going to get emotional. All right, so we're going to do that next week, and we're going to dance around the campfire and wave our arms. I used to have an assistant who'd say that to me all the time. I loved it. I'll see you next week.